I want to go over a few things about publishing a website. There are a couple ways to do it via Flash. One is that you go to the File menu, go to Export Movie, and that would allow you to export an SWF movie, a SWF, to the desktop. And then you could use simple HTML code that you can find on the internet very easily. I also have a video on how to do that in order to embed the SWF, the SWF, into a web page. The most common when you're working with Flash type of way to do it is to go to these publish settings, which is in the document properties panel, and make sure that Flash SWF is checked, and also make sure that the HTML wrapper is checked. Now when I highlight HTML wrapper, it will default to a very common type of HTML code that would be very much the same as if you went out on the web and looked it up. So we don't need to worry about any settings right there. On the Flash part of the publish dialog, there are a few things we need to talk about. One is if we have worked with sound, and we did in the last video, or one of the videos, if you did that part of the website, we need to increase the MP3 bit rates at least to, I would say probably 96. 96 is an option. So probably 112, 128 I think is fine. It's not too big in today's high bandwidth world to have 128 kilobit per second. So if you are using sound, pay attention to those. Also, if you need a high quality JPEG image, you can set this higher if you want to save some space because you have a very JPEG rich thing, but they're actually not that important. You can lower it down a bit. I feel like the 80 default is pretty good for most things. Let's see. And then the other things we need to take a look at are what version of the Flash player you want it to be backwards compatible to. Flash Player 9, I think, came out in like 2004 or something like that. It's really old. And 10 has been with us, I would say, since 2008. And 10.2, I think, was released last year, which was 2011. At the beginning of 2011, they put 10.2 out. So, I mean, really, if you go with 10.1, you're really covering yourself for the majority of devices that your website will be viewed on. And ActionScript 3, I think, should always be left alone in the default settings. You can take a look at the more advanced settings if you want to. But really, all of these are fairly esoteric and not really used too much. So last thing you have to decide is to click on this publish destination thing. You can save it straight to the desktop. I'm going to save mine. I might just put it on the Mac HD. Make it easy. Make a new folder called website. And make that the place it gets published to. And then, unfortunately, because of my resolution, you can't really see. Let me turn this off. There we go. Now you can see it says publish there. So I click on publish. It thinks for a second. And now that place where I published it to Wow, if I close a couple of these folders. There it is, website. Okay, so I've got my SWF, and I can then go here, select the HTML, publish. Oh, I know why, because I have to change the destination on that also. There we go. Okay, so now I've got both my HTML and my SWF in that same folder. If I grab Chrome, took a second, and drag my HTML in there, you'll see that it sets you up with a very sort of basic kind of website. One last thing, if you're having trouble with an error because of the fonts you're using, Flash allows you to embed the fonts in the SWF file. Apparently this is not a breach of contract or anything with the font providers. So to do that, you can get your text tool, for example, on this text layer. In the text properties, then there's a button that says embed. Excuse me. Okay. Here you can now select to embed. I would just go with all the characters into that SWF file when you publish it. Click OK. Another option is to select your text and go to break apart after right-clicking. The first time you break apart, it separates it into letters. The second time you break apart, it becomes vector art. So if you want to break it apart twice, then all of that text just gets reduced to vector art. And you shouldn't have any trouble publishing it after it's vector art. So you can do that as well. Okay, well that concludes the tutorial on publishing a Flash website. Thanks for listening and watching, and have fun with Flash.